Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. This is a bittersweet episode. It's the closing of one chapter, as this is the season finale of Season 2 of the Wellness Wonderland Radio. But don't you worry, I promise you I will be back with free, inspirational content continuing to be produced, because I just love this too much. I love talking to these amazing people, and I already have pre-recorded episodes for Season 3 on this very computer just waiting to be edited and produced, as well as countless interviews on my calendar with inspirational people that will find their way back into your earbuds this fall. But in the meantime, catch up on old episodes by visiting the archive page on my blog or in iTunes if you're new to the show, and go back and listen to all the great episodes and really catch up. Or if you've been listening to the show since the beginning and you've been with me, I also encourage you to do that too and go back and re-listen to your favorites, because not that they've changed, but because you've changed and you've gotten more inspired since they've originally aired. I've been known to listen to inspirational content on repeat until it becomes part of me and until it really is ingrained in my mind and I can use it in my life. So without further ado, let's kick off this finale episode with our review of the week. If you haven't left a review for me over on iTunes, I would super appreciate it if you could run over there, launch the application, and leave me a review with your feedback. It brings more people to the show, which is exactly what we want to do, right? So this week's review comes from Rockaline, and they write, I adore Katie's radio show. She has a sweet, curious spirit, and she interviews the very best people. I love her soothing voice, her juicy questions, and her commitment to service. I always feel deeply nourished and cared for after listening. Check out Katie's YouTube channel and her blog. I can't get enough of this girl. XOXO. Thank you so much for that review. I am smiling so big. I love that you love my YouTube channel. That's like my favorite place to be, other than the Wellness Wonderland Radio, of course. So let's get into this. No more chit chat. Let's get into this finale episode. This week's episode is very special because I have in Wonderland the woman who literally created the teacher we all know and love, Gabby Bernstein. Yes, literally. Her mom is in the Wellness Wonderland, giving her own sage wisdom about being the spiritual running buddy of Gabrielle Bernstein and raising such an inspiring lady. And she has so much wisdom that is unique to herself that I am so excited to share with you. So I hope you guys have an amazing day and week and little while until I am back with you in the Wellness Wonderland behind the podcast mic. So in the meantime, keep in touch with me on my blog, thewellnesswonderland.com. Explore old episodes and get in touch with me on Facebook. It's the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, and I'm at Katie Dalebout on Twitter. So let's hang out and talk about how inspired we are, like I always say. So enjoy this week's episode, and I promise I will see you guys very, very soon. And one more thing. I'm taking some time to create some really cool projects for you guys. There's a book coming out of me and some really cool things that I can't wait to share with you. So thank you so much for giving me this space and this time to be able to create and hibernate. And then I promise you I will be back behind the mic with more inspirational and free content. Talk to you soon. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am so excited and grateful that Susan Spivak is here. She is a healer, artist, yogi, and a mother, And through embracing spirituality, Susan has healed herself and is on a path to inspire others in so many amazing ways. She is one of the coolest people that I have talked to in a while. We were just chatting before the call, and she's awesome. And she's inspiring others, including inspiring her daughter, who all of us here in Wonderland know, my spiritual guru, Gabrielle Bernstein. So Susan was a major inspiration and source of light in Gabby's life throughout her life. And so now I am so excited to soak up some of the inspiration directly from her. So her expertise encompasses a whole lifestyle approach to creative living and living an authentic life. So I am so excited to be talking to her because I know she is chock full of deep wisdom, and I'm just excited to have an amazing, real conversation. So
Hey, I'm excited too.
thank you so much for being here.
So you're so welcome. I really am thrilled, and thank you for asking me.
Yay. All right. So I guess let's start here, zoom the lens back, and I want to know more about your background. Maybe you could let everyone know about now, I would definitely say you live in your version of the wellness wonderland, but how did you find your way there into being a yogi and a spiritual woman? Could you kind of talk us through that?
I think that I came to it because I needed to come to a place where I had more in my life than just what appeared to be everyday life when I was younger. Because my younger years, when I grew up in Vermont, were kind of drab and plain and pretty, but the kind of upbringing that I had, it was fine, it was comfortable and everything, but it didn't have enough what I need because my style is that I'm very eclectic, and I like all different kinds of arts and color and books and music, and I really needed to open that up, and my parents didn't really quite know how to do that, and so I think I came to it because of that. It was kind of a need, and when I was young, I met interesting people. I met a woman who I sort of sought people out, and I always do wherever I live. I seek out people who are spiritual. I seek out people in my community, wherever I am. I seek out the people that seem to have a different, more earthy kind of life than I was brought up in. So that's how it all began. And I sought out a woman. Yeah, I sought out a woman who was a psychic, and she kind of opened up my channel when I was young.
That's really interesting that you say that you did that, on a small local level of finding people who vibed with where you wanted to vibe and were more earthy. And I think that's interesting because now, with the internet and with social media, it's a lot easier for us all over the world to find people who are like-minded or where we want to be. And it's kind of interesting that you were doing that at a local level.
Well, I do it every time. I've moved a number of times, and every time I move, I basically sit quietly and ask for grace, the grace to just open me up to the right people for me to be drawn to, and to keep me from not being drawn to people who really won't be right for my life. So I usually find that happens. It's almost like I find the right people, and everyone else kind of isn't there. They're not visible.
I think Gabby talks about that a lot, with your friendships of, you call into you attract in your likeness, and you attract in the people who will bring you higher, and the other people just sort of fall away, the people who would bring you down. And I think I love that. That can kind of be the first takeaway from this for people of just, saying that prayer, whether it's on a local level or even, who you connect with on social media now that are being able to connect with people grows and grows and grows. I think it's even more important to kind of set that intention, like you were saying, which I think is really awesome.
Right. And, certainly now, because I'm older, and I am fairly savvy with the social media, not as savvy as some of you guys are, but certainly, I could learn more, but I'm pretty savvy with it. And I do find that.
You're totally savvy.
Oh, you're sweet. You're so fun. Anyway, but the things that I do know have definitely put me in touch with a lot of different and unusual people, which I love, and and also ways to get people to see things that I do, and I just find that going back to your original question, it's like everything in my life has always been because I needed to grow more.
Yeah.
And if I was in a situation where I was born and then I lived in a little kid body and I was living in this town that was kind of okay, but not, it was what it was. It was fine. But then as I grew up and started having more consciousness, I knew I needed more, and then I needed to grow more. So I reached out and found like sort of the fringe periphery of my community. And I've always done that wherever I live. I always find the fringe people, the people that are artists and spiritual people and earthy people and whatever it is, I always reach out to that, and then I settle back from that and go, okay.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for me, it's something with Wonderland and what I've tried to create. When you create communities online, it's like I can hand pick the people who I think are cool, regardless of where they are in the world, and help bring them together and at least bring them into my life. And I think it's really cool to be able to do that in a big way, but then also locally having those people around you that you can actually touch and drink a cup of tea with and hug, right?
Right, or do some work with, or teach a class at their studio, or not just so much that you need the money, but you want to help them make money. So you bring yourself to them, and, whatever it is, I feel that, so much of my life has been about, I'm a Pisces, so a lot of it has been about serving, and I seem to really like to serve. So if I serve someone, I feel like I'm healed. Mm. And then I also feel somehow, I don't ask for it, but somehow I usually get a lot back from my service. It's not like that's why I do it, but it does seem to come back.
If I serve, I feel like I'm healed. I love that. I think that's, it goes back to what your daughter says all the time. She quotes that Aung San Suu Kyi quote that says, if you're feeling helpless, help someone. And I think that's really obviously been true in your life. I love that. Yeah,
that's been a big part of my life, and continues to be, and probably that's my raison d'etre. My destiny is to be that way. And in some cases it's been tough because I've had relationships that I thought were good and they didn't turn, when I was younger, and I didn't have quite as much of a filter. I have a real good filter now, but when I was younger, I didn't have as good a filter. Sometimes you pick up some people along the way that you think are good for you, but they ends up not being the case. And it's funny, I have a yogi that I have known for a long time, and he's just a good friend. And at one point he lived with me, and he's just a sweet, not as a lover, but as a, roommate. And he just, every time anything happens where that kind of thing happens, he just goes, "Oh, you're so lucky that person's out of your lexicon, out of your life. You're so lucky." So rather than feeling bad about losing someone in that situation, I just feel like, oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah. Relationships are assignments, right? And it's all about what you learn.
Debbie definitely sees that. I always saw the relationships as mirrors, mirror reflections of whatever it is you've got to learn and grow with. And I think that's how I raised my children, to understand that particular, there were a lot of things I couldn't help them with, but certainly that type of thing. You can never help somebody go through puberty. It's like they got to do it their way,
Yes.
And, I tried, but, that's one thing as a mother. Other than trying to keep them safe, because, there's so much out in the world now that can really harm young people that are in puberty and in that period, and I believe me, I worry about it a lot for young people who have young, like, teens and stuff like that, because there's just so much going on. I hate to be negative, but I know about it because my friends deal with it. And so I guess it was always like, when I had the opportunity, it just always seemed to come out that there would be something spiritual that would come out of me that would say, well, that person, like when they were young even, well, that person's, that person that you're feeling this way about, Gabby, or that person that you're feeling this way about, Max, it's just like they're a mirror to you. There's somebody showing you something about yourself maybe that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah. So how much did you vacillate between finding balance, or how did you find the balance between letting them find their own path and guiding themselves there? I know Gabby speaks a lot about you sat her down on a meditation pillow when she was younger, and then eventually she found her way back to it. But how did you as a mother choose to bleed that your path onto them and help them with their own lives?
Well, I really just did it because it was my path. And they were surrounded by me doing it. There is no way of saying to your child, come sit here with me, this is going to make you feel better.
Right.
It was really Gabby, as with, when she finally got sober and all the different things. It's kind of Gabby's a very willful girl, and she was from the time she came out, and she's very demanding and willful in some ways, but very, very, but beyond, I don't want to use a negative word like demanding, but she just, I always knew she would be, not the easiest little girl to raise. And, and on that level, she did what she wanted to do. She didn't really want me to tell her what to do. But when she reached a point where she knew she needed help, she knew where to go for it.
So you really led by example then, and you just kind of, Gabby always says, be the light. And it seems like you really just did that for your children. So then when they were ready and needed you, they could come to you.
That's right. That's exactly correct.
Great advice for any parents and just anyone who is excited about what they're doing and wants to share it. It can be overwhelming for people who maybe aren't there yet, and just keep doing what you're doing, and they'll see how happy you are, and they'll come to you, right?
Well, that's what you hope. That is definitely what you hope and pray for as a parent. You hope that your kids will get the better part of you. Not everybody gets that lucky. Not everybody has a kid that doesn't have issues and problems that could lead them to a different direction. I mean, I think that I was very lucky. I have two really normal, as in, didn't have any, any major issues, kids that managed to, that had the sensibility and the intelligence to pick up on the good things around them at some point or another. And I'm grateful for that. Prayer is a very strong and powerful tool. And I certainly have used it in my life as a positive way to ask for grace and ask for help to bring in, whatever I need. And sometimes it has been to help the kids.
I love that. So switching gears a little bit, I know that you are an amazing artist and a really creative person in general. So I would love to know how you spark your creativity and how you stay inspired and how you enjoy doing the work that you do being an artist.
Well, I learned recently that, I mean, not recently, but I've learned over the last, many years, I've learned that that you're an artist, and then you sort of stretch out from that. It's like that's the middle, and then you kind of go. When you finally realize that you are an artist, when you finally realize that, you're not just somebody dabbling in this, dabbling in that, you actually have a creative mind, a mind that is able to accept the muse in, is able to accept the energy from outside yourself in, so that you can then turn it around and make it blossom into something that is either pretty or sounds good. I mean, my first art that I did was music. My first creativity was music. And then when I did children's music and I was kind of involved in the children's entertainment business, I found that that's where I really opened up the muse in a big way, when I had to write certain types of songs, because I would get these requests for, like, write a song about magical shoelaces, because the company that I was with wanted, they just wanted to have a logo and shoelaces to sell. And I was like, I can't magic shoelaces. And so I had to go into my space, and I created laces that lace to the sky.
Cool.
Laces that are going to make me fly. And it's a song that, it's one of my very favorite children's songs that I ever wrote. And I have many, but, the muse came to me and I wrote that song. And it, like I said, there have been many songs for children. I think that was my calling, really, was writing songs for children. And then, I've written premises about other things. But, it was a fairly successful business. And I have, some cassettes that I have to turn into CDs one of these days when I get around to it. But so I think, and then as years went by, I ended up getting involved in more of a, jewelry design and crafting. And as I did that, I once again, I was living in, many years ago, I was living in an apartment where we were renting for a year, and it was in Florida while my dad was passing away. And during the time I was in that apartment, I didn't have any friends because, a lot of these apartment buildings didn't really want to embrace people who were renting because they knew they'd be gone the next year. So, I just sort of got myself into jewelry design and really seriously got into it. And so through the years, I've just been obsessed with it. And I love it. And as far as, I try different types of things. I've learned all kinds of techniques. I'm teaching it now. I've made all kinds of things. I always sell things. Even when the market, I kind of try to figure out the marketplace. Okay, people aren't buying much, high-end jewelry these days. So we'll make some things that are pretty that, they can afford. So I guess I have a business mind as well as a creative mind.
I think that's important, and definitely something that, passed off on Gabby and her work, where it's like, she's a very, very spiritual woman, obviously, but also brings that spirituality into business and into PR. And, she always says God is her publicist. So I think that's important to just approach things in an authentic way of what do people need, and I'm going to figure out how I can give that to them. And I think that's really interesting that that's something that you do in your work as well.
Yeah, she's very disciplined, my daughter. She's extremely disciplined, and when she latches onto a concept like that, she does everything she can to live within that concept before she's able to really, I think, I may be wrong about this. I'm thinking that maybe she does that before she actually shares it with others. I think that's part of what I do too. It's like when you're a teacher, which in many ways that's what she is.
Yeah.
And a teacher of teachers. I think what happens is, if you're like Gabby and like me, or like anybody who has that feeling wanting to do it right, and do it right the first time, and do it with pizzazz and color and authenticity, I think you really have to spend a significant amount of time boning up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I guess speaking of Gabby, as a mother, I would love to know how it has been for you to see all of the success of your daughter and her on this path, and knowing that you were such an influence in teaching her how to meditate and teaching her kind of these concepts by example when she was younger.
Well, I didn't know what was going to become of her, but I knew from the very beginning, like I said, from the time she popped out, that no one was going to get in her way.
Yeah.
And, there were a few times when I was concerned and wasn't living in the area and had to really make my way back because, as children grow up, you can't just hang around them all the time. And I had to make my way back into her life. And it was around the time that she made her changes. But I made my way back, not really knowing the depth of what was going on for her in terms of her problems. But, enough so that I think she saw that I cared a lot and wanted to see her happy. And I think that was maybe, I don't know if this is the answer to your question, but that was maybe one of the pieces of the Gestalt pie that played into, her really getting that, her really seeing, how I came to help her with that as best I could. Because as I said, you can do all kinds of leading, like the old adage of leading the horse to the water, but you
Yeah.
just can't make them drink the water. I mean, that's going to be their trip, And so I prayed a lot on it. And I don't know, did I answer your question?
No, you totally did. I guess one more thing I would love to know around that point would just be, I would love to know how it feels for you to
How it
see
feels.
her on the stage, like jamming and, doing her thing.
Oh my God. I feel very, very overwhelmingly blessed to have to see my daughter out there sharing what she's learned with all these wonderful people who need it really badly, and I'm just so blessed. I feel like, God, this is amazing. I feel bad when I see something negative written about her. I'm like, I write. Gabby told me not to, but whenever I saw anything like in Facebook or whatever, somebody commenting something that
I
was,
know, I do that too.
I write and I go, you don't
She
know her.
doesn't like it.
You don't get it, and so I'm protective as a mother.
I get that way too, just as a fan.
Yeah. And I'm also very conscious of the fact that she tries to not put that in her space. She
Yes.
tries not to make that part of her thing. She tries to, let it go.
Yeah.
And understanding that people are what they are, and not everybody's going to love you. So
Yeah, I mean that's a huge lesson that she's taught me. It's actually in her book. It's a tool in her book where she mentions you, and she says that you were defending her on Facebook, and she was like
Right.
fighting things with silence. And I think that's a powerful tool. But when you love someone so much, it's it's that Course in Miracles quote, "In my defenselessness, my safety lies." But I think, it's my natural tendency to be like, this person is so amazing. And and I think that that's just a great lesson that, you can't be everything to everybody. And whenever people say something negative, I think I learned this from Cheryl Richardson, but she says that if someone says something negative to you or something rude, you just have to feel so sad for them and know, if they're talking to me this way, how must they be talking to themselves? The things that they're saying to themselves are probably terrible. So we all, come from different things. And I think
she's right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, Cheryl's very wise, and she's definitely right about that. That's something that I also think. But as far as the, to sort of put a cap on what you asked me, I'm just very, very proud of her, but not in a ego pride. I'm just deeply, deeply touched that a child that I raised and that lived with me has been able to, use her skills in such a way that, she's come this far. But I knew it was going to happen, because not only did I know it when she was born that something major was going to happen with her and that no one was going to get in her way, but I'd also had some, astrological readings by some of my favorite people. And, and I'd had an awful lot of, without her present, with her, obviously her permission. And I learned a lot about what was going to happen to her in advance of them happening. And I didn't always share everything with her, because I think it's important for people to grow on their own. But I kind of knew somewhere in me that this was going to happen.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I know that in some of her old lectures, which I listen to, I call them Vintage Gabby.
Well, I love the way you call them that. I think that is so cute.
I know, right?
I love vintage anything, so that's wonderful.
I know. So in a couple of them, you spoke. You were like in the audience, and I always loved the lessons that you would give. And in one of them, you speak a bit about relationships and some of the lessons that you've learned with finding your way into relationships and using relationships as assignments. Can you talk about any advice you would give for people entering in and out of relationships and finding their way with that?
You mean like a lover relationship?
Yeah, and
Type of,
friends and just
well,
finding
they're
what
so
suits you.
different, really. In some ways, they're very much alike, but in a lot of ways, they're quite different. I mean, I'd have to speak to one or the other, and then I'll have to see if I do, whether they turn out to be quite similar. They probably do. But, if you're going to be with someone, if you're going to choose to hang around with someone and be with them on a regular basis, it's nice. It would be wonderful if your karma was such that, and your upbringing was such that you felt so good about yourself that you could really um, pick a person who mirrors that goodness in you, and you have a great time and a great relationship. You don't have to go through any nonsense along the way. But unfortunately, that isn't always the case, because when you're young and you're going through vulnerable times, no matter how much spirit has been in your life, you sometimes do pick the wrong people. And so I guess my biggest thing would be, if you feel inside you a feeling of this isn't right, there's something not right here, then try to listen to that feeling. Now, sometimes those feelings can come after you've already gotten yourself wrapped up in something. You're committed to it in a way. And depending on your nature, you can either, get rid of that situation, kind of, or sometimes people, for their whatever their karma is, have to live through a long stretch of time with somebody that they really aren't right to be with, to learn, like we've talked about, to learn whatever the lessons are, to get you hopefully to eventually get to a place where you pick better people for yourself. I would have to say that I'm one of those people that has been through a number of relationships in my life, and I kind of see that you have to, once again, like I said before, you have to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I think that's something, it's one of those things in the moment, you may not know why it's happening, but I think having that perspective that there's always a lesson in every situation can really just be comforting in that.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, you can really waste an awful lot of time and years. And I mean, I don't like to say waste because, like
Right.
I said before, maybe it is that it was like that because you had to learn certain lessons. But, as I look back on my life, I don't know. I guess I had to go through the relationships that I went through in order to end up where I am. And, I'm grateful to be where I am. I like where I am very much. And, I don't know as everybody can say that. I've accepted the wonderful things about the way I am. I've accepted whatever the limitations might be about where I am. Um, and I look at them as opportunities for humility.
Yeah. I love that. Um, Speaking of that and kind of that influence of believing everything happens for a reason and really understanding that and knowing that connection, between your mind and your body, how was it for you that you chose to, raise Gabby and both your children in a homeopathic way? Could you talk to us a little bit about like the mind body connections and any lessons you've learned over time when it comes to the way that you treat your body and the way that you take care of both your mind and your body together?
Well, I have to give credit to Gabby's dad for all that, because he was the one that really, we found out about homeopathy at a point where it was important to him, and not that it wasn't important to me to take care of the kids in that kind of way. I mean, we had already had the kids vaccinated, and we had, it wasn't until we moved back down to New York when they were, what were they, 4 and 2 maybe, or something like that at the time, that when we moved down to Larchmont, where the dad came from, that really, I think we connected with a woman who was into homeopathy, and we met the guy that she was working with, and she was, I don't know, that's when it all began. And admittedly, I would say that Edgar, her dad, has really stayed with it in a big way. I mean, I've done all kinds of ways of healing. I've tried a lot of different styles of healing. And, certainly homeopathy plays into it, but I'm not married just to homeopathy. But it's something that my ex-husband was really more the one you should talk to about that. I tried to go along with what he wanted. There were times, though, when it scared me because, the kids would have a fever and it would be like, okay, belladonna. I'm not, not that I minded that it was belladonna that got rid of the fever, but what I minded was that it was just this tiny little amount that you could, it was like a sugar pill or something. So I used to worry because they were my kids,
Yeah.
And so in many ways, I think Edgar's responsible for having done that in the family. And I was responsible to get myself to a place where I felt comfortable with it so that I didn't feel like out of the water with that. Because I was oftentimes inclined when they had fevers or whatever it was to think, oh my God, they need antibiotics, or,
Yeah.
And I won't say that they never took those things. And there are times, I guess, in life when you kind of have to succumb to certain things like that. I mean, even right now for me, I had to succumb to an antibiotic this week because I fell last week. And as it turned out, I didn't want to go to the hospital or the doctor. Actually, it happened with the kids. But eventually, after 3 or 4 days, I did take myself, and they said, you do have an infection, and you have to treat it, So what can I say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about balancing between Western and Eastern medicine. It's like, a couple, like about a year ago, I had a really bad cooking injury on Thanksgiving, and I had to get stitches in my hand, and I was so happy that there was Western medicine at that point, and that, my skin literally grew itself back together, and that, that's the power of my thoughts and my mind and believing that it could. But I was also really happy to have the stitches and to, that when there's certain traumas and there's certain things that happen, it's great to have Western medicine. I think it's just about balancing and being open to alternative ways of healing and open to all sorts of ways of healing. And it sounds like that's really kind of the way you approach it as well.
Yeah, I would say that that's true. Overall, because, in my own health situations, I have definitely approached it that way. I've tried all kinds of alternatives, and then I've oftentimes, or not oftentimes, but majorly in this last situation where I was trying to get rid of something, I ended up going with regular medicine, and then thank God that I did, because if I hadn't, I don't know if I'd be here today.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think, one of my friends and I talk about this all the time. It's like, if you believe that Western medicine is going to heal you, it probably will. If you believe an alternative therapy will heal you, it probably will.
But it couldn't heal me, okay? Because I tried it all. I tried so many things, and it wasn't what was going to heal me, because what I had to go, and it didn't go through John of God. It just didn't get out. Although John of God was very helpful to getting me to a regular doctor in terms of, I felt that was there. And it couldn't help through this other guy, Doug Lieber, with all of his stuff. And it was so many things that I tried. And eventually it just, came to the point where I had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's all just about being open to all of the different things and blending things together, like you talked about there. And I think that's the same for health and your physical body to your mind and your spiritual practice. And I think that's something that Gabby teaches as well. And I know that I believe of just blending what works for you in all different modalities, from, A Course in Miracles and Kundalini Yoga and different types of meditation and different types of practices, and taking in all of it. And I think that's why Gabby, one of the reasons why Gabby is so successful, and I connect with her in so many ways, is it's blending all of these amazing things and just being a curator for it all. So I guess I would love to know, on that vein, when it comes to spirituality and your current spiritual practice, what does it look like today, and how has it grown and shifted over time?
Well, there was a time when I needed to be in the presence of shall I use the word gurus? I didn't, I did try many different paths. I went to the integral yoga silent retreat in 1974 with Satchidananda. And then I spent time in the City Yoga path with Guru Mai. I liked being around their energy, but I never chose to be a disciple from the point of view that that was the only thing I was going to do, and I was going to live there and do seva there, and that was how my life was going to be. I always felt that, those things were very helpful to me. I learned so much from them. I honor them like unbelievable. But at the same time, I feel now like I'm able to walk a path without all of that extra support. Like I'm able to find within me. It's in me. It's not. It's a path that I walk every day, every moment.
Mm. I love that. It reminds me of, something Gabby always says, you are the guru, you are the teacher, and reminding us of that. And that's, it's trippy for me. It's crazy to think, because I, admire so many people, and your daughter is the big one. And, and that's something she really teaches, that we're all the guru and we all have it in us. And going within to find that inspiration is something that's really important.
It is. I mean, look, we do what we do in our life. Every day isn't the same. Every feeling, every moment isn't the same. But, you go up, you go down, whatever you do, But there are some critical things that you have to know about this life that, let's say you get hysterical, something happens, or, let's face it, there are things that can happen that are out of your control that could be pretty horrible. But then let's just say we're talking like, a normal world where you go up and down because of life's things. I don't want to delve into the things that could throw you off your game majorly, but let's just go into a normal, kind of lifestyle. It's important to recognize when you get into a negative space and to breathe with the fact that you're not your feelings, that you're not. And that if you really have the time and you feel like, that you can just breathe into it, within a few minutes, those feelings don't exist anymore. You begin to see the power in that statement.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And it was funny, I wrote this down to ask you, tools for getting back into the flow when you have kind of fallen out or you feel kind of out. And, Gabby just wrote a tool of 108 of them, really. And
right.
I was kind of wondering what some of your favorite tools were for that. And I think you kind of mentioned one of just feeling the feeling.
Well, I've learned a number of tools. When I was really going through a difficult period with my health, and I was scared, because when you're told you have something and then you go through all the tests about what you have, then you get all these answers back, and sometimes the answers are frightening, and you don't have the opportunity to sort of call the doctor on a whim and say, well, what do you mean I have tumor markers, Well, what does that mean? Do I have cancer? That kind of thing. Because I was always looking out for, I just want to be healthy. I don't want to have cancer. And so far, luckily, I haven't seen that come up. But when you don't know and you don't have a meeting with your doctor for a little while, and I would have things like that would come up. And during that period, I found a bodhisattva through a friend who's a psychiatrist actually he's a psychologist. I have never physically met him, but out of his own, he's a friend of my cousin's, and he would call me periodically, or I would call him, and he would give me a little time, and he's actually a psychologist from the point of view of spirituality. And he said to me after hearing some of my stories, you remind me so much of Manjushri. And so I looked up Manjushri, and I learned his mantra, his powerful mantra. And, I learned more about Manjushri. And so what I gleaned from learning was that Manjushri was this bodhisattva that would, protect himself when things were not good. And he would throw a sword in the air with his right hand and hold it tight, and then put his hand over his heart, and he would yell out his mantra, which is Om Namah Pachina Dahihi. And that's the way I say it. It may not be right. It might be said differently in the Indian dialect. But so there were many times when I used that tool, and if I were home alone and feeling scared or feeling, in a situation I didn't like, I would really yell it out. I would just lift my sword in the air and hold my heart and yell out Om Namah Pachina Dahihi. And it really, really helped.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm going to have you write that down so we can put it in the show notes for people.
Okay. I think I have it. I tried to translate it on Google when I have his picture and I have it written out in its Hindi form and then or Buddhist form, and then I tried to listen to, see what the words sound like. So I think I'm okay with it. It's just an amazingly powerful tool. That's all I can say. I mean, I would scream that sucker out. And it would really help me. And then, so that's one. And then there are times when I sit in front of my altar, and as Gabby has learned through me, and as Gabby enjoys, tarot cards and rune stones and chi things and all those fun things that are tools. I would sit. I remember there were at least 4 times, and on one of the times I brought my husband into my circle to do it with me because I was feeling he needed it also, because, the person that's with you as you're going through fear, they can't help but pick up on your fear because it's the energy that's around you. So, I would bring him into it, and we would sit and hold hands, and we would, I would speak it rather than just take it inside, but I would ask for grace to release the fear and to, let me accept whatever it was that was going to come to me, but, to give me the best that they could, do the best that you can for me here. And then after that, I would choose something like a card or something from one of my many decks that I love to work with. And it always came out exactly as I needed. I mean, always. And you know what? Right after I did it, the pain went away.
So good.
I'm telling you, it was shocking to me when it happened, because it's kind of like you go back to, okay, why did I do spiritual things? Because there was nothing going on and I was bored. Why did I end up doing jewelry? Because there was nothing on and I was bored. Or I was unhappy because there weren't people around. Why did I play music? Because I was sort of lonely and I wanted to share myself with people, and that was the way that I felt I could speak to them the best way. Why did I sit in front of an altar and pray like that? Well, because I was afraid. You look at all the crossroads of your life.
Yeah. It's like, it reminds me a lot of Wayne Dyer's new book, or I think it's his most recent book, but I can see clearly now, and he kind of goes back over the memoir of his life and notices, what happened, why this had to happen the way it did, and all of the paths that led him to the lessons he needed to learn and the practices that he does. And it's pretty cool to kind of see you kind of looking back to doing that. And, I try to, in my own life, notice, when things are happening and I cannot understand why, just try to take a step back and say, even if I can't see clearly now, someday I will be able to, right?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's not about you seeing clearly. Sometimes it's just about you letting go.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to always see clearly in terms of seeing the end result or seeing why this happened, or, all the sort of like stories that are around it. It's kind of like you tell the truth about what's going on and it disappears. And that's a very strong message that I did learn many years ago when I did go, and I'm not saying this because I'm promoting this particular thing, because I don't promote it necessarily, because I'm not somebody who's into est and stuff like that, but I did take the training, and that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned in that training, was that when you tell the truth about what's going on for you, it disappears.
Wow, that's powerful. When you tell the truth about what's going on for you, it disappears. I feel like that was the tarot deck card I needed to hear right now, because I think that's really important for me. And I think when it comes to fears that we're holding on to, and things that are really tantalizing to us and like really stuck on. And I would love your opinion on this of like, when it comes to fears that you're holding on to, do you think just getting super authentic and real about it is the best way to release it, whether it's in your journal or to another person?
Definitely.
Do you have any other tips there on releasing really stuck fears in your mind?
Well, I think what I said, it's one thing to share it with someone else, to speak it. Matrika Shakti is a very powerful tool, speaking of the use of the power of the spoken word, but you have to be careful who you say it to, and because you don't want to say it to somebody who isn't able to understand it with you and help you. You don't want to have it turn around on you and it be like, well, whatever they might say to you, you want to make sure.
Yeah, like you're right. That fear is true or something.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's lots of things to be fearful about. And I don't want to start the list, but you do have to live in the moment. You do have to breathe in the moment. You do have to ask for what you need in the moment. I had to, I won't say who, but there was someone the other day who, and I won't say who because I don't think it's right to, but it was just a person that's very close in my life that created a negative space around us because the person felt disappointed by something that had to be changed at the last minute. And it's kind of the nature of this person's style is that they want to be in the moment and they try to practice being in the moment and they go to therapy to be in the moment, but they don't 100% get it until they're faced with somebody that says, like I did the other day, look. And the way that I think I said it made this person realize, look, I am sitting here and we're in the space together and something changed that you don't like. Well, I understand that and I don't like it either, but you have to be in the moment and say, okay, it changed. Let's go on. You can say nicely, gee, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But to start, turning it into this angst that then creates all this negative energy in the room, and you feel like you're being blown out of the room by negative energy. And it really worked. It really worked when I said that. So it turned the whole situation around, and I was pleased for that. But as far as these fear, I think a lot of it is trying, really making it, not trying, but being in the moment and breathing and seeing the fear, because everybody has things, and just, almost asking it to let go, let go and let God, go someplace, go back into the place where you came from, and like that. I think it's sort of like you grow into a place where you kind of naturally don't fear as much. Now, let's face it, if you're in a fearful situation, if you're in it, it's not something you're thinking about, but if you're in it at the moment, that's another thing, Yes, you can use every tool that you have in your toolbox to get yourself out of it. But if it's really scary to you, then honor that this is really scaring me. Like when I thought my mom was going to die this winter, and I went in and out of the hospital with her many, many times, and I let the kids know, because they're adults now. I let them know what was going on as best I knew. And there was a time when I was ready to call, the person. I thought, oh, this is it. She's, I got to call somebody to come and pick up her body at the hospital. And because I've been through this before with my dad, it's kind of like there was finally a time where Gabby and I would go back and forth, and Gabby was very positive. She was like, I don't see it yet, Mom. I just don't see Grammy going yet. I see her having some more time. And, I honor Gabby's vision. And then she would say, I don't hear Grampy coming to me and telling me that she's coming. And I honor Gabby's vision enough so that I could accept that. But at the same time, I was the one immersed in it. Like I said, when you're in the midst of this thing that's causing the fear, when you're there looking at this person who you love, who you've been trying so hard to keep her safe, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I remember calling Gabby, and I was able with Gabby, because I trust Gabby. I was able to cry with her, release my fear, accept whatever was going to come. But at that point, I needed someone else, luckily, I have her, and it is her grandmother, so I was able to call on that.
That's amazing, and I kind of mirror that story, with my mom and my grandma and what she's going through right now too, and it's really it's a tough time to see that within my mom, and her sadness around it, but it's also empowering to me to know that I can kind of be that light and that source that can be helpful in her life, and
Yeah.
and I love that.
And you are one step away. I mean, it's like you're a step away. You're the daughter of the mother is dying.
Right. So
Like
you get
as
it.
much as you love the grandma,
Yeah.
so much of your life is not wrapped up in taking care of her. I think that's the thing. When you're wrapped up in being physically around and taking care of the person, then sometimes fear can just be unbelievable. But at the same time, and not that it's unbelievable. I mean, it can crop up, is what I mean to say. It can crop up. How can it not? And but I do have good ways of working with it. I mean, I do have. I mean, I do truly believe somewhere deep inside me that I'm going to be with my family again. I do truly believe deep inside me that the people that I love, that influenced me, that are there, that they're in me, that they're with me all the time, and that their influence isn't going anywhere, and that they protect me. And, so I guess I have enough
Faith.
faith. Yeah, faith and tools. Faith and tools.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the perfect combo right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
Because
that.
without the tools, you can have faith. Like a lot of people, and I don't mean to put down religion, structured religion,
Yeah.
but a lot of people get involved in their own religious background because
Yep.
that's all they know, and they don't have the consciousness to take it any further. And what happens is they look at that as their answer. And then, there's sometimes when that is not your answer anymore, Yeah, I suppose that it could be, helpful to make you feel a little bit better if you've been bad and you go and you do Father, forgive me for that sin deal, and they tell you to do whatever you're going to do. And then maybe you feel like, okay, I'm fine now. But that's not the way I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree, and I think that that's a good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So now I want to get personal with you and ask my favorite question that I ask everyone who comes on the podcast. Could you walk us through your morning routines, any specifics you do to start your day, and why that's important for how the rest of your day goes?
Okay. Well, I'm very fortunate in that I don't have to work a regular job anymore. I've married a lovely man. I've been with him for 10 years, and I don't have to get up and run out and put on a suit or put on anything and go work. So I honor that in the morning. I say, thank you so much, for being that in my life and helping me end up in this situation. I wake up and I oftentimes will allow myself to go back to sleep because I feel that, my body is older now, and I feel like I have a right to go back to sleep and go back into that, the arms of Morpheus and dream and be in that space. And then if my husband is wanting to be with me at that time, I'm not talking necessarily in a sexual way, but in an intimate way of like just even hugging or whatever, I feel that I will do that. So sometimes that happens with us now. So we'll just like go back to sleep together, shall I say, by
Cuddle.
just, cuddle. And it's important. I always had problems with cuddling because of the way I was raised, and I learned how to do that because it's important to my husband. So I'll do that with him in the morning, and not forever, but an extra hour sleep or whatever it might be. And then I feel good because I've done something that made somebody else feel good. Serve or suffer, Pisces motto. And then did you hear that? Serve or suffer.
I love that. Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Motto. Yeah. So then I will get up and usually I don't meditate or anything like that. I come downstairs. I always fix myself some nice tea that I get over at the Woodstock tea shop, and I will think about my day. I will sit down. I take probiotics. I'll take my vitamins and stuff that I need to take for my health, and then I'll take some chia seeds and eat them somehow, and then I will sit down and think about my day and wonder what the day's going to bring. And I have a lot of creative things that are all around me and many different directions that can go in. And sometimes people will contact me and ask me to go in a direction like you did when you wanted the gloves. And then when I'm contacted and somebody wants me to go in a direction, I know exactly what I'm going to do that day, and I know exactly how I'm going to feel about doing it, and I just get it out and work on it and make sure it's done as best I can do. And then if I don't have anything planned, then I'll just, like this morning, I just sat quietly outside on the front stoop and watched the birds, because like I said, I'm if you sit quietly out there, you can be pretty close to them, and they'll come, and I've been spending a lot of time listening to the different bird calls and looking at the different birds and feeding them, and I put a house out for them, and one of them is in it now, and just kind of like get some sun and relax.
Yeah, your way to connect. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's how I'll get up and do my thing. And then if there is something I do have to do, I'm not a person who necessarily sits and meditates, and I don't know exactly why that is, but I have to say that I think, and I'm not positive, and somebody might correct me, but I think the reason is because I feel like I'm always in a meditation state. My kids might beg to differ, because, the other day, the kids might beg to differ and say, "Oh, Mom, you're not always in it," but I kind of feel like I am in this sort of path and state where I don't have to necessarily always sit. But Gabby, I know she really believes in all that, and I used to believe in it really majorly, and I have sat and meditated and gotten really, a lot out of it, but I don't feel the need right now to have to do that, so,
Yeah, I think Gabby kind of says the same thing, too, of like, sometimes she sits for an hour, sometimes it's 5 minutes, but she, people have asked her in interviews before, like, how often do you meditate, or how long do you meditate? And she always says, I'm always meditating, life is...
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's not a thing that you kind of just do once in a while. You live in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, it's meditating while you're making the bed, meditating while you're getting ready for the day. It's just mindfulness and present, when you're eating or preparing food, and all of that. I think that's really important and kind of key to all of this.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. And witnessing, being in a witness mind, being able to witness yourself in the moment and seeing what you're doing, and seeing, in that moment, if you're feeling okay about what you're doing, and, and changing that, for yourself immediately if you feel that it's, you need to be in a different sort of space, shall I say, not necessarily physical space, but, conscious space. I know that there's many things I could be doing probably that would be absolutely fabulous, and I've done them, at different times, and I've had the moments of, oh my God, like when I did qigong with somebody, and she was taught by a Chinese man that she was his lover, and she was living in my apartment at the time, helping me pay the rent. And I remember, I was talking about this the other day, how, we went for a long walk, and then when we came back, we were this is when I lived in Larchmont, we were outside, and she just taught me these qigong exercises for the liver, which is, my bane of existence, and it has been, but it's getting better now. It's almost healed. But she just taught me these amazing breathing qigong exercises, and my God, it was the same feeling like I have when I do the Manjushri. It's a certain way that you feel when you do use the tool.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just knowing that it's your free will and your choice, and not feeling guilty when you don't, but just knowing they're there and
Right.
you can use them when you need to, and that's what they're for.
I mean, I hate to say that, it's only when things are going bad that,
No.
but because sometimes it's not like that. But, there have been moments when I've questioned that, like, gee,
Yeah.
I was feeling so bad and then I made myself feel better. It's like, well, hey, listen, good for you. Bravo. You made yourself feel better. Don't analyze it so much.
Yes, yes, like taking the pressure off, even like with the question that I asked about morning routines, I like recently wrote something about this. Is like, use all of the tools as a buffet and take what you want and leave the rest. And every day you come to the buffet, take something different, and it's okay. And like, consistency doesn't have to be so dogmatic and structured. And I really resonate with what you're saying about that.
Well, that's why Gabby's new book is so perfect.
Yes.
It's such a perfect book for people because you don't have to read it from cover to cover. You
Mm-hmm.
could, if you want to, read everything. I mean, if you're really into it, you could read every one and do every one and see how it makes you feel.
Yes.
But if you also weren't inclined that way, you could, as she has said, put your hand on it
Yep.
and, say a prayer and open it to the right page and do that one. And it's kind of like, it becomes like a book that's a tarot deck.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned that and how spot on the cards that you chose in your practice have always been for you. And I will say from experience that it's so amazing doing that with Gabby's book. Like, it's so cool. And I know she's mentioned many times that, eventually it will be a tarot deck, and I love using it in that way. And of course, reading it cover to cover is great too, to see all of the tools, and then you can be even more amazed when the right one comes out for you, when you knowing what's already in there. That's kind of a cool way to do it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just recognition of the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that so much of life can get so bogged down and complicated if you don't just clear space in your aura field to know that you can recognize the truth and to honor that piece inside yourself and to say, okay, I can recognize that feeling that I had from that experience, or that reading that I just did, or that breathing exercise that I just did, or that mantra that I just yelled in the air, or that card that I just picked, or whatever it is, that moment that I just felt, or being around a saint, or whatever, it is amazing. It's just amazing. It's beyond words.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of the mindfulness and bringing it to all areas of your life and really making life kind of a moving meditation, I would love to know, you mentioned making your chia seeds in the morning, but when it comes to food and your relationship with food and your body, what kind of wisdom and advice do you have on that vein about finding peace in your relationship with food and your relationship with your body?
Well, I've called out to Gabby a lot for help on this. And in many ways, sometimes I've responded, when she's told me what she thinks I should do, I've reacted by like almost like being the child and she's the mother. And, tried to say, but I'm fine, or, whatever it is, But I think what's happened recently is that I have decided to go with her idea of the no sugar, no yeast, rather than going on, like I feel like I have 15 pounds to lose, but I've already lost 4 since I started this. So it's like, I feel like I have like 14 more to go. Maybe it was more than 15, but I know that for me, it's important to not get heavy because it's not good for the liver. And that's what I'm healing right now, my main thing that I'm healing right now, and it's going well. And I don't drink, so that's another part of what, and believe me, I used to love to drink. I mean, I used to love to have a Manhattan or whatever, but I just don't drink. And, I have to be around people that do because, there are still people in my world that like to have cocktails and stuff, but I just don't do it. And now I've had to clear out even my non-alcoholic beer because that's fermented. So, Gabby got me started on this right after Mother's Day, the next day when I went to her place. And she gave me the book, whatever the Candida book is. I've got it here somewhere. Shall I get it so I can tell you what it is in case people want to know what it is?
Yeah, sure. You can tell us after.
Okay. Well, anyway, so I have this, and I kind of like read between the lines, but what I got was I think Gabby and I are similar this way. I'm better just going on something tells me what not to eat, and then I can go ahead and eat whatever I want. You know what I'm saying? It says, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat this, don't have that. And then I can go ahead and go, oh, okay, well, I'm hungry right now. I'm going to go have a smoothie made of almond milk and stevia, a little bit of stevia and some berries and maybe a little bit of almond butter. And I'm going to make that thing in my blender. And, and it'll fulfill me and make me satisfied. I have to just look to different foods to make me satisfied. Last night we were out and these people were eating a lot of crazy food. And, we had supper already and we went out to hear some music in Woodstock. And I'm sitting there looking, and for the first time in a long time, I was able to sit there and watch them eat their pizza and their mussels and their garlic bread and all this stuff and not be having even an interest in it. Mm. So it's only been 5 days. I mean, Gabby said, get this streak calendar and keep track of it. So that's what I've been doing. And, it's wonderful. I feel like I'm really empowered by this particular thing. And it's different than anything else I've ever done. I mean, I've done a lot of things, but, you do a juice fast. You do it for a period. I've done these, like 2-3 week juice fasts. You do it for a period of time. You definitely lose weight, But then when you're off of it, it's like, what do you do then, And so this plan, I feel like, for some reason, for the first time in a long time, I'm seeing my scale go down.
Well, it's really interesting, I think, with the way that you're speaking of, it's a lifestyle, and it's not a diet, it's not a cleanse, it's just a different way of living, and it's something that's sustainable, and it's really about, bringing that mindfulness to food. And one of my favorite, probably my number one favorite, anything that Gabby's created is her Finally Full program, where she really dives into it's not, practical tools of eat this then and eat this here. It's the really mindfulness tools of the energy that you're bringing to the times when you're eating, and really focusing in on what the energy you're bringing to your food is. And I think that that's really important, that it's something that's sustainable.
Well, Gabby has, in our home, for whatever the reason, there was a lot of, eating fast, and the father ate fast, and then, everybody else ate fast, and there was a lot of that. So, these are things we've had to work on, and we've had to work on the consciousness of not doing that, and we've had to work on, just the slow down process. And I think she's done a lot of that hard work, and I've done a lot of that hard work, and we remind ourselves of that all the time. It's kind of like now I've been falling a lot lately, and I have to remind myself when I'm walking. Well, I'm not falling anymore, but I was falling a little bit, and now I have to remind myself, just go slow, go slow. Mm-hmm. That sort of consciousness. But the food thing, Gabby has turned into, a creative cook. She really loves to cook. She prefers to eat at home as to eat out, which I think is, a blessing really for her, because it's a blessing for anyone to have the skill to be able to. Of course, she watched people who cooked, and she comes from a line of people who were really good at cooking and making something out of nothing. Mm-hmm. Her grandmother that she never really knew, her father's mother, who knew her only for a year and a half, which was terribly sad for all of us. But she was like a Holocaust survivor type thing, and she knew, she was always like, keep your money under your mattress type, But she was one of these women who could make a delicious soup out of parsley. Mm-hmm. I mean, she didn't need a lot to make something good, and in some ways, I see Gabby reminds me of the different. I look at like, who does she remind me of? What does she like? You know, and then I think that the food thing. If a person feels that they have to go out to eat and buy stuff that other people make all the time, I find that to be sad because it's not something that came from within. You know, it's something that came from somebody else's within. And I don't feel the pleasure of eating something as much. Yeah, okay, once in a while it is fun to go out to a restaurant, no doubt, especially when you know it's a great restaurant, it has really good food, and you know you're going with friends and you're going to have a good time and you're going to get what you want, and you know it's good. But it's another thing when you're buying takeout food all the time. I mean, unless it's I don't know, I don't buy into that. I just think that you know, yes, there are people that make really good takeout food, but
Yeah, I mean, I think the lesson here, I think that the main takeaway is just that it's an honoring of yourself to cook for yourself and nourish yourself and put that energy into your food and know where your food is sourced and know all of that, and that goes into your body and that can help with how you feel in the world. And a big lesson for me was, you know, when it's not about weight and it's not about how you look and it's more about how you feel. And I know that's something Gabby says, you know, she got off coffee and got off sugar and all of those things, you know, that I've implemented as well in my life. And it's just really that it's not about how you look or any of those vanity things. It's like, yes, your skin and your hair gets better and all of that, great. But really it's like, I want to have serious vitality to be able to do this work, you know? Yeah. And I think that's a powerful, powerful, you know, diet to be on, right? This is a spiritual diet.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's easy to be thrown off because there's always that voice that wants to come and throw you right off that little wagon.
Yeah, and that voice gets louder the more when things get good too, you know, and it's just using your tools to come back. And I love that.
Yeah.
So let's wrap with some quick fire questions. You ready for them?
I'm ready.
Okay, favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite yoga pose?
A tree.
Favorite practical self-care action that you do for yourself?
Eat right.
Number one or best place or wherever you hear your ing voice, your intuition the loudest?
Around people.
Love that. What are some of your evening rituals? We talked about the morning rituals. Some ways you wind down and relax at the end of a long day.
Oh, you're going to laugh. TV, because I do like it. I mean, I do like watching certain things on TV. So, and my husband and I enjoy that together. But no, I would say, you know, maybe I sometimes play Words with Friends online.
Aww.
I you know, and part of the reason I like it so much, and I've recently come up with because of it, I've come up with an idea for a screenplay, and I'm probably going to work on that a little bit today. But I just really like, you know, playing with the same people for a long time.
Connecting, yeah.
And in some cases, you don't even know who they are. You've never met them, but you know, then all of a sudden, you're Facebook friends, and you start seeing a little bit about their life. You know what I mean?
It's a way for you to connect. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's about connecting. Yeah, I like that a lot. And then sometimes I'll just play a card game because I like gin rummy. But you know, then I know you'd like to hear me probably say, read a good book. No, but that's not always my way of sort of chilling out and going down, you know.
I like that. I like that honesty and authenticity. I think that's needed in Wonderland. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you know, I know it would be probably in many ways so much better for me to just say, oh, I listen to really wonderful music.
No.
You know, I do oftentimes take a bath though before I go to bed. That is one of those ritualistic type experiences that I will do, is take a nice bath and, you know, feel like I'm relaxed and then get into bed. So yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
What is your favorite memory of Gabby when she was growing up, or just anything that pops into your mind?
Oh my God. My favorite memory is when she came down from college to this lake house that I had, and she arrived, and it was a beautiful day, and she was in a good enough mood to sort of do what I wanted. And I said, let's go down to the lake and take a swim. And the water was perfect. And we went in the water, and it was just beyond my wildest expectations to be able to be in the water with my daughter at that moment. And it was just like, I haven't had it since, really, because that particular exact type of moment, because, it just wasn't, nothing can exact a moment,
Right, right.
But I think that, that's something that was something with Gabby that I did that I felt was absolutely fabulous. You're talking about what I did with Gabby or something that she did on her own?
Yeah, well, either way, I guess.
I mean, on her own, I mean, it's just, let me think. I think when she sat and meditated with me, that was a pretty big moment.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was a big moment in her life, and she definitely mentions that a lot.
Yeah, and eventually I took the two kids with me to meet Guru Mai, and and I wanted them to be in that energy. And I got their Hindi names, which was nice. I got mine and theirs, and from her, and it was a nice moment in time for me and my kids too. That was a wonderful thing I did with Gabby.
I love that. Couple more quick fires. So, what is your favorite day of the week?
I'm thinking about it because I like every day. Every day is my favorite day.
I love that. What is your favorite hour of the day?
I don't have a favorite. I just love them all. I just really, I love all the moments in the day. I don't have a particular favorite. I never even thought about having a favorite moment in the day, or, I like it all.
That's an amazing answer. What is your favorite thing you've eaten in, say, the last week? Something that was really yummy that sticks out.
Well, that berry smoothie was pretty damn good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was very good. I wrote Gabby because I wrote her a text. I said, can I have, and I listed off the things I was going to put in it because I was feeling like a sweet craving, I said, can I have this, 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 this? She said, yep. So I went ahead and made it, and it was delicious. So I think that smoothie was really, and what's going to happen when I get off the phone with you today, or off this call eventually, I'm going to make myself another one.
Amazing. I wish I could come over and we could share one, or I could make you one.
It would be fun.
Cheers.
All right.
If you could have one superhero power for a day, which would it be?
Maybe to fly.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So my last question I ask everyone, and I'm so excited to get your answer. So as you know, the name of my blog and this podcast is The Wellness Wonderland. So when I offer that term to you, to live in a wellness wonderland, what comes up? What does that mean to you?
It means that I should breathe and just think positively and create positive energy around me.
Beautiful. I love that answer and all of the wisdom that you shared. This has been such a blast. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you so much for being with me.
Oh, you're so welcome, and I really enjoyed this. I was almost thinking a few minutes ago that it would be nice just to talk like this all day long.
Yes, it definitely would. Well, that's what happens in Wonderland. So thank you, everyone, for listening. And thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.